All right, YouTube. This is Detroit's HPTV. Come to you out of Detroit on Friday morning. We got to talk about the week's events. Now, on the left, they've been going crazy because of the audits. They want the American people to think that these audits are violating the rights of the American citizens, when in all actuality, it's giving American citizens an opportunity to see how their money is being spent and on what are the priorities that were under the last 4 years under the Biden administration. You've seen where they were transgendering mice, transgendering monkeys, paying for LGBT promotion in other countries. Then he went to FEMA and found out that FEMA gave 59 million for illegal immigrants in New York, when New York has a housing problem of even being able to give shelter to veterans. And now he's going to the IRS. Now we know Biden hired 80,000 new IRS agents to sit on the taxpayers. He hired 80,000 new IRS agents. Now the IRS is going to be audited. Who actually has a problem with Elon Musk and Doge auditing the IRS? We see what they found in the USAID. We see what they found out about FEMA. There's no telling what he's going to find out about the IRS. But today, we're here to address another topic. And as you can see from the title, I call this Wakanda versus America. We know Wakanda is some fictional place out of Black Panther, but some people took it serious. Like with the Woman King and other movies that had came out of Hollywood to try to create a narrative. Because if you even study how communists operate, like Mao Zedong created a cultural war because he started writing the plays, the scripts, the movies, the music, so that he changed the mentality of the people through the art. And then the people started to imitate art, not art reflecting people. And that was how he initiated the Cultural Revolution in China. And if you think that they don't use the same playbook, you're wrong. Because, as always, I like to share with you guys things out of the Constitution. I want to read one thing out of the Constitution for you right quick. This is the First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech and or of the press. So in a nutshell, the Constitution says censoring the American people is illegal under the Constitution. Censoring. But I'm going to show you how the Wakandians think. We're going to go into this transition of the Wakandians against the Americans. So watch this first clip with me. This is for fair usage under the 1976 Copyright Act for educational purposes and commentary. Check out the Wakandian.
Look, let me tell you something. I'll take a bit of umbrage here. I'll speak on behalf of my colleagues. Something I can say. We are all willing to work with anyone who's serious about doing the work of censoring the American people and advancing progress. But they are not.
Wait a minute. I know I just read the First Amendment to you guys. Did she actually just say that? That she's willing to work with anyone who's willing to help censor the American people? Say it ain't so, Wakanda. Let's watch one more time.
Look, let me tell you something. I'll take a bit of umbrage here. I'll speak on behalf of my colleagues. Something I can say. We are all willing to work with anyone who's serious about doing the work of censoring the American people and advancing progress. But they are not serious.
It's like she said the quiet part out loud.
Mr. Powell, the last time.
We had to check out these Wakandians that are taking over Congress. She actually is espousing the same things that they were doing under the Biden administration with the censorship on social media. They've been trying to censor people for the last several years to take your right of freedom of speech away from you. So you only have one narrative. And look who they keep putting out front. You would look at the Democratic Party and you would think there's no one over there but black people that's going against the conservative, that's going against the will of the American people. Because their front lineup is definitely political theater and orchestrating, creating a narrative that if you challenge it, you're either a racist or misogynist. Now we're going to watch one more clip. No, I got two more clips for you. This next one is Auntie Maxine. She's going to say the quiet part out loud as well. Check this out.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. It is no secret that President Trump, what he wants to do, that he wants to do away with the Federal Reserve altogether. He said he knows interest rates much better than you do. I want you to know that some of us here have been fighting to make sure that everybody understands the importance of the central bank. Every country dealing with crypto, their central bank is involved. But of course,
now what she's going to advocate is the globalist. The Federal Reserve is not even an American business. It's international bankers, independent of the government, just like the IRS. So she wants to give more power to international bankers and globalists than she do to people. And her colleague we just seen, Ayanna Pressley, wants to censor the people. You know, they were screaming fascist and fascism the whole time the election cycle was going on. Because I guess they thought that people didn't understand, or maybe a lot of people didn't know what fascism really is and what communism and socialism really is. But watch what Maxine says.
And the opposite side of the aisle fought us. And that's one of the reasons we were not able to come together with a bipartisan agreement on stablecoins. You previously said that you would not resign if Trump asked you to do that. Do you stand by that commitment?
I have no changes to that.
I can't hear you.
Yes.
Thank you. Please let the record record that adequately. I appreciate.
Man, that attitude, she talking to that man like he got a tail. Is this the narrative? Oh, they did tell him they were the backbone of the Democratic Party. They did make them think that. And I guess they're doing to the Democratic Party the same thing that happened in our communities when they were given preference over the men and their uncles and their fathers. You see the community, the state of the community? Look at the state of Congress and continue to listen to what she says.
That because you have a right to your position not to be interfered with by law, I believe, or even Constitution. When Musk comes knocking at the Fed's door, you gonna let him in?
I don't have anything for you on that.
Would you like to tell us today that you won't let Doge into the Federal Reserve or have access to the systems and the data?
So we don't
Now, listen what she's saying. She wants him to commit to not opening the door for Doge and the president and the people for an audit. She's grilling him to say that he will stand in the way of the federal government. Now, you may not understand what I mean when I say federal government. DC, the presidency, is the federal government. They always say about states' rights and what the president can't do. But Article 6 of the U.S. Constitution has a supremacy clause. When the federal government, under the direction of the presidency, his mandate supersedes any state's mandates because he's charged with the duty of enforcing the Constitution. So, what is it that they worry that he's going to find out? And as I asked you before, who has a problem with the IRS being audited? They've been auditing us forever. They got all our data, social security numbers, birth certificates. They got all our records, all what you may call chattel papers that can be utilized on the global market as collateral. Because the United States currency is not backed by gold, it's backed by the ability to tax the people. That's how we ended up in debt to China in the first place. Let's look at some more.
I don't have any. We've had no contact, and I don't really have. I have nothing for you to report today on that.
Well, you know what happened to Treasury, and you know what happened over at the CFPB, and the people of this country are being violated because all of our privacy is being taken up by Elon Musk and Trump, and we don't know what all they have on us, our bank accounts, everything that.
Wait a minute. She didn't say she didn't want him to go in there because she don't know what all they have on us. Let's play this back. I might have heard her wrong.
Know what happened over at the CFPB, and the people of this country are being violated because all of our privacy is being taken up by Elon Musk and Trump, and we don't know what all they have on us, our bank accounts, everything that in our lives. So I want to.
She's worried about the fact that the American people want to know how they all became millionaires on their salary. You look at AOC, who was a bartender and now a millionaire as a public servant. Remember, Harry Truman said that the only way that you can get rich as a politician is if you're a crook. How can you be a civil servant and serve the people, and the people are in poverty and suffering, but you're rich? I have one more Wakandian I want to show you. Check out this Wakandian.
Here from within. Here is the problem.
Wakanda is aggressive. Watch this, your Wakandian.
Here from within. Here is the problem. Of course, Congresswoman, to interrupt you, but President Trump, of course, has denied any allegations of the white supremacists, and that's why he apparently fired what he. I know your point, but he did fire Darren Beatty in reaction, they believe, in part to his attendance at that conference. Does that change your opinion in any way?
No, it doesn't change my opinion because we saw what he literally recently just posted, and the coddling is for the white boys. That's what's happening right now. I am tired of the white tears. Listen, if you are competent, you are not concerned. When I walk into Congress every single day, you know why I don't feel away and why you can't make me doubt who I am? Is because I know that I had to work 10 times as hard as they did just to get into the seat. When you look and you compare me to Marjorie Taylor Greene or me to Lauren Boebert, there is no comparison. And that is the life that we have always lived. So the only people that are crying are the mediocre white boys that have been beaten out by people that historically have had to work so much harder. This is why they don't want us to have education. This is why they are trying to literally say we won't fund the HBCUs, because they know that if they've already gone after affirmative action and they're saying, you know what, don't allow them to come into, say, these PWIs, as we call them, don't allow them to come into these institutions, We know why they created the HBCUs in the first place. It was because they wouldn't allow us into the white institutions. And so now they're not allowing us in. And now they're saying, you know what, we're also going to defund the HBCUs. You know why? Because they don't want any more Kamala Harrises. They don't want any more Jasmine Crockett's. But I got news for them. I don't care what they do. We will fight to the end to make sure that we get our due. Because again, if you want to talk about the people that shouldn't be in this country, you probably need to look in the mirror. Because the last time I checked, the Native Americans who some of ICE have been rounding up, or the Puerto Ricans who are absolutely Americans, listen, the only people that came and colonized this place are your ancestors, Trump.
I'll note that the BD position.
Wow, what a load of information. Because obviously she don't know that Trump's family was only one of the very few millionaire families that refused to participate in owning slaves. Now she has to know that. I mean, that's well known that Trump's family refused to participate in slavery. That's well documented. It wasn't like Biden and the rest of them that actually had human property. His family refused to participate in that business. I got one more clip of some Wakandian activity.
When Roger Goodell
Watch these Wakandians here.
stands up, not necessarily against Trump's attack against DEI, but stands up and says that's separate from what we're doing, he doesn't have to look any further than Trump's cabinet. You mean to tell me those are the most qualified people politically to do those jobs? Those are the most experienced people to do those jobs? President Trump is the exact reason you need diversity, equity, and inclusion.
It's about making sure that there is white supremacy in this country. And if we're honest, we will say that.
But we're treated to sort of similar comments to what Kerry made tonight about race, white supremacy, all of Trump's ideology and people and voters and everything. It's all about white supremacy. This was rejected in the election. Democrats ran this was the animating thing of the Harris campaign, and it was rejected.
Okay.
What's
And I am constantly shocked at what you're not aware of, which is
I'm constantly shocked with what you're not aware of.
I don't know. I
think
tend
you're not aware
to be
of
more
a lot
right about it
too,
than you
my
are.
friend.
But the reality is, he
You're
did
not
better.
aware of a lot too, my friend.
He did better among minority voters than any Republican in a half a century.
Yeah,
I
I'm
seem to
sure
be totally unaware of.
But it's also true.
But if you're going to come out and call half the country a
I
white
did not
supremacist,
call
I think you got to
the
explain
country
it.
about. I didn't say the country. I said this was
Sure you
about
did.
white supremacy, because what he ran on was making America great again, which is another code word. You like to say woke. You
But
like
you're
to
saying
say
the election was about
But I'm
white
saying
supremacy.
it was.
That's about the
I'm saying
Alyssa,
what Trump was
you were
about
gonna
was
say
making
something,
sure
so
he is
I'll
making
give
sure
you
that
the
he's.
last
Now, her narrative is the slogan "Make America Great Again" is white supremacy. Make America great again. So you mean to tell me that you're an American, you live in America, and you're offended by a slogan of "Make America Great Again"? But you're not offended by censorship. You're not offended by the globalists. You're not offended by open borders and hordes of migrants making victims out of American citizens. None of that is offensive. See, ever since King, the Democrats have been using black Marxists as their frontmen, as their attack dogs. A lot of them go to college, to these liberal colleges, and they are introduced to Marxism, and they think that that is the way to bully their way into positions of power, not understanding that the end of Marxism will only put them further at the bottom. But do you see the theme? And it's orchestrated. And the reason it's like that is because without the black community, the Democratic Party can never win. They need all of the black vote because they are a minority in the country, because the majority of the country is conservative. Majority of the country is against the transgendering of children. Do you know that the judge in New York just banned the stop on giving children transgender surgery? These leftists are pushing an ideology and an agenda that majority of the country is rejecting. How can you not see that transgendering children are wrong? Children are not even allowed to get tattoos. They're not allowed to buy alcohol. They're not allowed to drive. But you will allow them to change their gender. But in their mind, this is their EI. This is their inclusion. Everything that is anti-God, anti-country, anti-family is what they push. But she wants you to believe that if you say you want to see America great again, then you're upholding white supremacy. They act on that side that they don't like. They don't have passports. Who would stay in a country that you hate? Leave. But that's not what they want. They want to turn this country into that idea that they have in their head, but we are genderless, godless, and familyless. They want to control us and turn us all into human bots.
It's not even.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. I gotta tell you guys, this video right here that we gotta react to from this CNN panel will make you roll your eyes, okay? Because you're gonna have liberal black women, they're gonna boohoo, whine, and cry racism and bigotry. And that is the reason why they're not as successful and well paid as they would like to be, is because the system is holding them down. Now, this conversation is in response to ESPN's crybaby, Ryan Clark, boohoo, whining, crying about President Trump getting rid of DEI, okay? And the fact that a lot of corporate America is moving on past DEI because DEI is not profitable, okay? It's not productive. You're not hiring the most qualified people, because if that was the case, then these organizations would not be getting rid of it, okay? If DEI was resulting in the most qualified people getting the job and it actually improved their profits, if it made their companies more productive, they would not be getting rid of it. The fact that they are getting rid of it tells you everything you need to know about it, okay? So with that being said, I want to go ahead and react to this clip here from CNN in which they're going to be discussing this topic.
Can we just go beyond? Can we just go beyond the cabinet? Because yes, the president gets to pick whoever he wants, and the Senate is now for the Republicans. And I would have hoped that some of them would have been had more profiles and courage, but they didn't, and they actually put people in that I do believe in your party you have more qualified people who could be in that cabinet. I'd like to think that, but that's not what they chose. That's not what they chose. So go for it. Okay.
You know what's hilarious about this? These people continue to boohoo, whine, and cry about President Trump's cabinet picks and whether or not they're qualified. Again, these are the same people who had nothing to say about Biden's cabinet, a lot of whom were made up of people who had no expertise whatsoever in the department, the agency they were selected to lead. Like, for example, Pete Buttigieg, he had absolutely zero experience or knowledge with transportation, but yet he was the secretary of the Department of Transportation. Where were these people complaining about his qualifications? Oh, they were nowhere to be found. Same thing for Biden's health secretary pick. Dude had zero experience whatsoever when it comes to health. He's not a doctor, not a scientist, just a politician. Where were these individuals? They were nowhere to be found. So again, a lot of this outcry about the qualifications of President Trump's picks, it really shows that they don't understand how politics works, first and foremost. But again, it's just fake. And the last thing I want to hear from the individuals that supported one of the worst administrations in American history, certainly the worst administration in the 21st century, is about who's qualified and who's not qualified, right? You have zero leg to stand on when it comes to telling the other party who's qualified and who's not qualified to lead this country, especially considering how Democrats quite literally voted for an empty suit and an incompetent woman to run the country. And that ended up being a disaster.
Okay. I think the issue in this country right now is we live in different realities. That's right. I live in a reality where I know I do not have the same opportunity as you. I know I don't. And you know
And
that
I know
too.
what, Scott?
I got
And you know that.
Now, mind you, I'm gonna let her finish, but mind you, she's on the same platform with him with the same job. They're both pundits for CNN. So I'm trying to see her point of logic, but I don't think it's going to be logical because they all are from Wakanda.
Let me just tell you about me.
I'm gonna let you finish, but I want to answer this.
I'm not talking about how you feel. I'm talking about how I feel. Me, a black woman in this country.
But not in this city.
And I will run. And if you want,
I'm a New Yorker, not in this city. You cannot say that. You can't say that in this city.
I'm not talking about New York. I'm talking about actually
let her finish.
right here.
Let her finish.
I got a law degree, a master's, and 2 bachelors. Probably more education than all of y'all added up together at this table, right? And I have always been the least paid person on payroll at every institution I have worked in. And it's not
Even
because
in the White House?
even in the White House.
Well, whose fault is that? I don't think you.
Now listen to this Wakandian. This Wakandian says the level of education that she has, and she's still the least paid everywhere she goes. But her education only qualifies her to work for somebody else for lower wages. That shows you that you can have degrees and still be dumb. How you got all this education, but you everywhere you go, you're the least paid, and you can't think well enough to create a job for yourself and be your own boss? She's saying the quiet part out loud, like the other Wakandians, but we're gonna listen to some more.
Work for George W. or Trump?
Well, guess what happened when I was there? DEI.
Yeah, this is hilarious. This is hilarious. I have so much to say about this because this poisonous ideology is so deeply ingrained within the black community that, quite honestly, I just don't think there's anything that can be said. There's no logical reasoning that can change an individual's mind like this. In her mind, she's not as successful as she feels like she should be because of her skin color and her race. And again, there's no amount of logic that could change her mind. Like, for example, very simply, she claims that, well, Scott has more opportunities than her because he's a white man, but yet she's sitting at the same table with him. How is that possible? She worked in the White House. She's on national television. You're sitting at the same table with Scott Jennings and all these people that you claim that you don't have the same opportunities as. How does that work? How does that work? I don't understand. Like, somebody make it make sense. You're complaining about not being paid enough, but yet your employer is CNN. Your employer was the Democrats in the White House. So if you got a problem with how much you're getting paid.
I'm going to end on that note because you see where Greg was going. See how they always say the quiet part out loud? She's saying Obama and Biden and the rest of her masters over there on the Democratic plantation paid her less than anybody else. But she's blaming the conservatives. That's where her gripe is. See, this is like a generational curse. She was taught that. She was taught to think this way, probably by her mother, and she's probably going to teach her kids that. So she comes and she browbeats everybody over their head with what her accomplishments was, but at some point, all her accomplishments are DEI because she's not intelligent. So how does she have a master's degree? And clearly she's not intelligent. You would have to be foolish to have that much education and to still say out your mouth, everywhere I go, I'm the least paid. That means your education doesn't even serve you well. It's a hollow, fake title that they use to embolden these Wakandians to make them think they're something that they're not. And that keeps the division rolling, and that keeps the Democratic with their base. The other day, Ayanna Pressley comes out, and now she wanted to bring out the House bill again on reparations under Trump. She had 4 years under Biden to bring the bill up and to argue about reparations. But now they're losing everything. They're worried about going to jail. They're being audited. She comes to the forefront, and now she wants to talk about reparations. It's a red herring. She's doing that to try to rally the black community behind a democratic failed agenda and to probably keep a lot of them from going to prison. While you thinking about this bill of reparations that she's trying to push, but she's trying to push a reparations bill to a whole administration that she calls white supremacists. Wow. You couldn't do it under the liberal Democrats, but now, all of a sudden, you want to push it out in front of the very people that you call supremacists. And she knows that the logic on their reparation bill doesn't make any sense. You know, a lot of my subscribers, they ask why I don't talk about reparations. I don't talk about reparations or get into that debate because it's not logical to me. See, if you want reparations for slavery, wouldn't your reparations start with Africa and the Arabs who created the transatlantic slave trade? You wouldn't go back to the source. You wouldn't start there, the point of origin, or like when you go to a store, the point of sale. How can you absolve Africa and the Arabs who created the transatlantic slave trade and make it simply an American problem? Now, that's just my logic on it. You know what I mean? But I use it like basically on like a street sense. You know, the police is more after the drug dealer or the drug trafficker than they are the addict. I mean, the person who's selling this illegal product is more dangerous than the person who purchased it. So if at some point in this country, these Americans and these Democrats had a need for cheap labor, and they found a seller, I would think the seller is mostly complicit than the purchaser. But then they use this rhetoric and they call themselves kings and queens. Do you know there was never a king or a queen that got off a slave ship? Kings and queens sold black people into slavery. So on every turn, you identify with your master and your captor. That is Stockholm syndrome to its fullest. You want to call yourself, hey, king and hey, queen, not even realizing kings and queens is the one that sold you and traded with Europeans to put you in the bondage that you say that you should be receiving reparations for. But all of a sudden now, Ayanna Presley wants to bring that to the forefront. I don't know. All I know is that the Democratic Party is in full meltdown. They're becoming more and more unhinged in the things that they say and reveal. And the Wakandians look bad. They talk so much that they keep saying the quiet part out loud. They keep talking about the things and drawing attention to their socialist communist views, censorship and global agendas. That's what they keep directing to if you listen to what they say. And they call everything racism and about white supremacy, even though they know for a fact that the Democratic Party is the party that fought to uphold slavery, created the Ku Klux Klan and Jim Crow and redlining. They know that the Republican Party was started by abolitionists Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, and they can't even realize to themselves who the real traitors are, who's really treasonous. This is real interesting politics now. Real interesting. And you keep seeing the same thing. You just got to pay attention. Well, this is Detroit's HPTV coming to you out of Detroit. Support the channel. As always, salute to all patriots. And y'all keep your head on a swivel. Peace.